Hey there, Tony with Villa Property Inspections. Thanks for joining us today. Today, I want to chat about balcony inspections, specifically SB-721 balcony inspections for apartment buildings. I'm sure you've heard about this a lot in the news lately, and you're going to be hearing a lot more about it. So I thought I'd break it down for you today, what it is, what it isn't, what you should be looking for, what you need to do, and how to protect yourself and your clients. So before we get started, if you could hit the like button down below, it really does help push the information out to other people just like yourself. Okay, so today I want to cover what SB 721 actually is, what buildings must be inspected, when must they be inspected by, who can actually inspect the balconies, what must the inspection cover, the report itself, and if there's any repairs to be done that are required, and hiring a contractor. First, a little bit of history on what brought about SB 721, and there is also SB 326, which pertains to balcony inspections for condominium complexes. But today we're going to stick with 721 for apartment buildings. So back in 2015, a little bit after midnight, tragically in the city of Berkeley, that photograph that you see on your screen right now, that balcony collapsed from the 5th floor with several people on it, and 6 people died, mostly college students. It was a big uproar, and there was a lot of investigations that happened after that. Basically, what it came down to is the overwhelming evidence was that the framework, and you're going to see more photographs in a little bit, the framework was completely rotted out. Water had gotten into the balcony, and because it's cantilevered, there's nothing supporting it underneath, and it literally got to the point where the floor joist just snapped off with the weight of all the people that were on there. And so in September of 2018, the governor signed the bill SB 721, which pertains to apartment buildings only for balcony inspections. And then SB 326 came about shortly thereafter, which pertains only to condominium complexes. They're very similar but a bit different. But like I said, today we're going to cover SB 721. I will have a separate video, and there's information on our website about SB 326 as well. So what must be inspected? I'm going to digress just for a second here. If you look at that photograph right there, that is the actual balcony in Berkeley that collapsed, and you can see the extensive amount of rot damage on that wood framing, and it just literally snapped like a toothpick and fell off tragically. And sadly, this is how our building codes change, is after some kind of tragedy, and how new laws get passed. So, definitions. You're going to hear this a lot if you haven't already heard it when it pertains to balcony inspections for either apartment buildings or condominiums. Exterior elevated elements. The short of it, you can read the screen here, but the short of it is it's balconies. It's any structure that protrudes the exterior walls of the building, that sticks out from the exterior walls of the building, and as that it is raised more than 6 feet above the ground. So that's balconies, individual balconies for apartments. The balcony / walkways that you see in apartment buildings on the 2nd, 3rd story quite frequently. It includes stairs, and the code says that it pertains primarily to wood-framed structures. However, for stairs, even if they are steel-framed, you still want to have those inspected, because the important part is not necessarily the stair frame, but where it connects to the wooden structure above. And I've seen some stairwells that are almost completely disconnected from the balcony or the walkway on the 2nd story. So it does include stairs, anything that's raised more than 6 feet and meant for human occupation. Other definitions that you're going to hear and you're going to see in reports for balcony inspections is load-bearing component. Basically, that means the frame of the of the balcony. How is it supported? Is it cantilevered? Is there a beam underneath it? Are there posts supporting that beam? And what condition are they in? Associated waterproofing elements is another term that you're going to see a lot when it comes to balcony inspections. It's going to be mentioned in your reports, the inspection reports. And basically what that is how is this balcony covered? Does it have some kind of waterproof coating? Does it have a finished floor like ceramic tile? Any other type of membrane? How is it connected, the floor connected to the wall, the flashing material that connects the two and seals it? And what other load-bearing components of the balconies, and how are they protected from water as well? So when must this happen? It has to happen by January 1st, 2025. And you're going to hear about it a lot more as we get closer to the end of the year. And I am going to touch on something at the end of this presentation that you're going to want to stick around and listen to on how to protect yourself as we start getting a little closer to the end of the year. There's going to be a mad rush to get the balcony inspections. Once you have had your first balcony inspection, then it's going to be a requirement every 6 years. For condominiums, it's going to be every 9 years. If you had an application submitted to a building department after January 2019 for new construction, you're building or your clients are building a new apartment building, then it's going to be no later than 6 years after that. So that would fall well into 2025 and or 2026, depending on when the construction is completed. So this is where the differences between SB-721 and SB-326. So SB-721 says that a licensed architect, a civil or structural engineer can do the inspection on these balconies. But it also allows for a general contractor holding any one of these licenses. And it also allows for certified building inspectors to do these inspections. Now, I've heard a lot about rumors that regular home inspectors can do these inspections, and that's not true. By certified building inspector, the code is referring to an ICC certification as a building construction inspector, not a home inspector. And not everybody holds that certification, but when you do look for somebody to do your inspections, make sure that they meet one of these requirements. Now, one of the big differences between 721 and 326 is that for whatever reason, and I think that the Senate dropped the ball on this personally, and I'll tell you why a little bit later in the presentation, they require the inspector to be a structural engineer or an architect only. And that opens the door to a lot of dishonesty, for lack of better words, and I'll touch on it a little bit later in the presentation. But SB 721 for apartment buildings states very specifically, Section 2, Article 2.2 of SB 721, no recommended repair shall be performed by a licensed contractor serving as the inspector. So basically what that means is that it's illegal for any contractor to do your inspection of your balcony and then perform the repairs. And again, I'll touch on this a little bit later on, but just keep that in mind. What must be inspected? Basically, you have to identify what type of balcony, what kind of structure is it? Is it supported with a beam like in this photograph? Is it a cantilevered structure? Is it wood frame? Is the framing exposed like in the photograph here? Is it covered with stucco? What is it covered with for protecting from the elements, from water and rot damage? The current condition of the balconies or stairs. Expectation for future performance based on whatever the inspection looks like on the day of the inspection. You can kind of gauge what it's going to look like 6 months from now or a year from now if nothing is done. And of course, recommendations for any necessary repairs. Now, SB 721 says that only 15% of a given type of balcony or structure, exterior elevated element, needs to be inspected. And what that means is that, for example, if you have 10 balconies that look similar to this photograph here, realistically you only have to do 1.5 or 2, and that's 20%. Now, if it were me as an investor, a building owner, of course I would want to have all of them done, and it just behooves you to get them done. But if you have 15, 20 wooden stairs, technically you only need to inspect 15%. I disagree with that, and I do recommend that all of them be inspected. If you're going to have somebody there already, you might as well. The report itself is not much different than what I just described. You basically have to describe what's there, the waterproofing system, the current conditions, expectation, and recommendations for repair. So all of that has to be reflected in the repair. Each one of those sections has to be there with photographs. Now, if there's any repairs that are required to the balconies, as you see in this photograph, these were recent inspections, it categorizes the repairs into two categories. One, if it's an immediate threat. If the balcony is in such a bad shape, or the stairs are in such bad shape that it poses an immediate threat to the occupants, then that sets it apart from regular maintenance work. So that creates an emergency condition, and technically the inspectors like us are supposed to notify whatever local building official is as to the condition of this balcony. The balconies are supposed to be cordoned off so that they're not accessible to the tenants anymore until the necessary repairs are done. So if the repairs are required and there are no immediate threats, the building owner has 120 days from the receipt of the inspection report to get this done. Now, if there's any building permits that are required to get this work done, they have 120 days to pull these permits from the local building department. And once you pull building permits, the building permits are generally good for 6 months. Now, I'm going to digress just a little bit here, because a lot of the balcony inspections that we have been running into are very typical maintenance. Some minor cracks here, some lack of maintenance that don't require invasive investigation or repairs like you see in the photograph here, where they're removing all of the stucco. A lot of the times it's just basic maintenance. Basic maintenance does not require a permit, in which case you don't have that requirement for 120 days to pull your permit. You just want to put that on your I would put it fairly high on the priority list of getting things done, the maintenance on the balconies, because the longer that they're in that condition, the more they're going to be damaged, and the more expensive it's going to be to make these repairs. So a little additional information. Can the local jurisdiction make the law more restrictive? Yes, they can, but they cannot make it any less restrictive. SB-721 is a state requirement, not a local city requirement. So that I know of, there are no local cities right now that have passed any ordinances, local ordinances, relating to balcony inspections. Now, I have heard some rumblings of a couple of local cities who are always in the forefront, just like they did with soft stories. There's 5 cities in Southern California that passed ordinances about soft stories for apartment buildings, and those same 5 cities have some rumblings of ordinances for balcony inspections. Now, what do you do with your inspection report right now? Since there are no local ordinances for inspection right now, you do nothing. You hold on to it, unless, of course, you have some significant repairs to be made, like I just described right now, where you're required to pull a building permit and we're required to notify the building department. Then you do nothing. You hold on to your report. Of course, you make necessary repairs if they're maintenance related, and then you file your report, and you're good until the next time around, which is 6 years from now. Now, this is what I alluded to at the beginning of the presentation. As of right now, I've been keeping track online, And there are more and more and more companies popping up online right now. There are construction companies that are posing as balcony inspectors. And they are doing so for the sole purpose of generating construction work for their construction companies. I have researched several of these construction companies and looked at their license at the Contractor State License Board. And a lot of these construction companies popped up or started divisions of their existing construction companies to, specifically for balcony inspections right after the bill was passed or within the last few months. And it's very unscrupulous, and I have heard of a lot of complaints to the Contractor State License Board about construction companies that are using high pressure sales techniques to do the inspection one and then sell the construction services. And if you remember what I mentioned a little bit earlier today, any contractor who has inspected your balcony is not allowed to do the work to repair those balconies. Now, the way that these contractors have worked around this is that they have multiple companies. They have a construction company, sometimes they have a remodeling company, they now have a balcony inspection company, and so on and so forth. So I have an article on our website, and the URL is right here on the screen, about how to hire a contractor and what to look for. And specifically, you want to go to the Contractor State License Board and check out their licenses. And not only check if the license is current, but who are the individuals who are holding this license. If you click on the personnel button once you get to the Contractor State License Board, you can see who's holding this license. And very frequently what I found is that the individual who's the responsible managing officer, or the RMO, is often related to 4 or 5 construction companies. For clarification, an RMO is somebody who is responsible for overseeing the construction company. But what most people don't know is that an RMO who holds the actual contractor license can actually rent their license out to other individuals who want to start a construction company. I've been approached many, many times to rent out my contractor's license. I've had a contractor's license for 24 years, going on 25 years, and we do inspection work only. We don't do any kind of construction work, but I have been approached several times. If you Google RMO, you're going to come up with a lot of agencies that act as brokers between people who want to rent their license out and people who want to rent the license. And it makes it very easy to open a construction company without so much as even taking the state contractor's license exam. But it also, sadly, makes it just as easy to close up shop when these construction companies find themselves in trouble or behind a lawsuit. They close up, they rent out another license, and they don't miss a beat. And this is what the complaints have been about to the Contractor State License Board. So the CSLB has been cracking down on the practice of renting out licenses through an RMO. But there are still a lot of them popping up lately. So when you get ready to do your balcony inspections, just keep in mind that whoever does your balcony inspection cannot do the construction as well. And even though they may be posing as a different company, you want to do your research so that you don't get left holding the bag if something goes wrong. Now, the other thing that I've been seeing a lot of is that a lot of these construction companies want to drill holes into your balconies and cut holes open to stick a small camera in there. And I have one of these cameras, and I can tell you that they don't get to see a whole heck of a lot. And it's a gimmick to make you afraid of what they found and basically sign with them to do the construction work. The law, SB-721, nowhere in SB-721 does it say that it has to be destructive testing, that you have to open up walls or open up balconies. Anybody who tells you that you need to do that is trying to sell you. Most of the times you can tell what condition the balcony is in simply by looking at the exterior, looking at the settlement, looking at the cracks, looking at the lack of maintenance, looking at the moisture staining, doing some thermal imaging, moisture detection, and then from that point forward, then you make your recommendations, or we make our recommendations to the client to A, it requires some maintenance, or B, you really do need to open up the stucco and do some further investigation, at which point then you can hire a contractor and of course take all the necessary precautions to hire the right contractor. But you shouldn't be scared into hiring a contractor because they tell you that that there's something wrong with the balcony. This is why we're independent. We're 100% unbiased, and we tell you exactly what we think, good, bad, or ugly, and then we give you the option of finding your own contractor. We don't do any construction work, and that's what I suggest that you do when you get ready to do your balcony inspection, whether it be with us. Of course, we'd love to have you call us for your balcony inspection, but if you choose to do it with somebody else, call an independent inspector, not a contractor. And then if that inspector recommends that you hire a contractor, then you do so at that point. So with that said, we are going to be on the 15th of May. We are going to be at the Expo, and I hope you drop by to see us for the Apartment Association of Greater Los Angeles. Our booth number is 229. We're going to have a lot more information there. We're going to have some of our gadgets and all of our staff right there. So we hope we see you over there. If you have any questions in the meantime, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My email address is tony@inspectaproperty.com, but you can also reach me at 1-800-465-0153. You can also text me at that phone number, and it comes through directly to my cell phone. In the meantime, visit our website at inspectaproperty.com/balcony inspections. There is a plethora of information there, and I'm adding new information and new videos on a weekly basis. But again, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much for joining us today, and please don't forget to hit that like button.